From Israel, it's politically incorrect.
From John.
No, with your host,
John. Oh, come on.
What's your name?
Paul. Steve.
Steve and John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
I
Okay,
promise you the show will be a lot smoother than our introduction.
We did very well this week, actually. There were no F-ups. We did very well.
Minutes. Okay, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to go with something really interesting here. And that is that...
Aiden, I'm always waiting for you.
Here we go.
Aiden.
Hi, Aiden.
By the way, do you want that pizza well done or regular?
Okay, go on.
Whatever you can get, believe me, he'll be happy with. Yeah. Okay, we've got in the November elections in the United States, we have Mr. Donald Trump, who is a businessman, and he's
president.
That's all. And he's president, incumbent president. And we have Joe Biden, who's a little gaga and he's old. And funnily enough, an interesting fact, in 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he was running against Herbert Hoover. And Herbert Hoover was an unpopular businessman who didn't really know anything. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a very seasoned politician. And he was running against Hoover. And he asked one of his rivals, he said, how can I win this election? What have I got to do to win this election? And the guy said to him, the only thing you got to do is just stay alive till November. Oh, that was quite funny.
But let's just move on.
No, but I mean, is this what's going to happen with Biden and Trump? Has Biden only got to stay alive and then he'll win?
No, he has to keep his mouth shut till the elections, not just stay alive. But he has three debates that he has to get.
Yeah, but Trump's going through a bit of a hard patch.
All right, let's move on from that.
You don't want to talk about Trump?
No, not really.
But I think I'll get our...
Aren't you working on Trump's political campaign?
Well, I don't know. No, here's the thing. Yeah. If you now brought it up, there's a chance there is whispers in Israel of a November election.
There are whispers. Yeah, okay.
Now, how interesting would that be for the world media?
Let's carry on to the next
elections in the U.S. and elections in Israel simultaneously, and the ramifications of the results. Now, I've got to tell you something. It's very interesting that in America today, even on Fox News, which is slipping closer and closer to the center, away from the right, okay, they look at the demise of Mr. Donald Trump. They actually believe, according to the polls, that Mr. I don't know who I am today, Joe Biden, is going to beat Donald Trump, especially in the key states. Now, obviously, in most polling seasons, we're in the middle of July, the end of July. People are, in the best of years, are all in their summer mode, and they're not even listening to all this nonsense.
This is a funny
On
season.
top of that, this
like
year...
The cucumber season, they call it.
Okay.
Don't ask why. Go on.
Did you get cucumbers from Carrie?
Go on.
Mine didn't grow very well.
Go on.
It's also not until September does the presidential campaign season really start warming up. And that's when we'll have debates. And that's when the country somehow, hopefully, if the schools get back on track and the nation starts opening up once again, we'll be able to get onto a political campaign. Right now, there's no way. These polls mean zero.
So what do you think? You think Trump's going to get in despite the polls?
I say that let's not put a lot of emphasis on the polls of today.
Like he did against Hillary.
He was behind at the same time.
He was behind. He was behind her all the time.
I am just saying.
I mean, I don't mean that, literally.
As we're bringing this up now, okay? And let's just look at Donald Trump from a perspective as an Israeli, a Jew, an American, all three, all the above.
I don't think he is Israeli.
What?
I don't think he is Israeli.
He's not Jewish either.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, if you wouldn't keep interrupting me, and I let you get away with that opening now.
Come on, get over it. Come on. You over? You finished? You got it off your chest?
We cannot afford to have Joe Biden win the election.
I agree with that 100%.
We don't know who his running mate is going to be, but the names coming up are not looking pretty. Furthermore, and I really call out to the Jews of America, especially those living in the states where their vote really matters.
Like we did
like
in
Florida,
like
Illinois, and like Ohio. Yes. It's a little different
No,
because
but
we're not a
they-
parliamentary system.
But they came through. They came through.
They came through. Okay. Anyway, forget about sovereignty over the Jewish neighborhoods and communities of Yehuda and Shomron. That will never happen under Joe Biden.
Can we carry on talking about sovereignty for a minute?
Sovereignty, fine, go
Can I-
ahead.
can I go
yes,
ahead?
please do.
Okay.
No,
We're talking about sovereignty.
very. By the way, very proper how you got in there.
I know.
Wasn't
I
rude.
know how to
That's
get
what
in.
we like. What you bring to the show.
Okay.
Derek
So
Harris.
getting on to sovereignty, 15 years ago, pretty precisely, was a time when Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip, that strip of land where they were growing what? Gush Katif, and they called it Hitnap Court. They called it, what is that?
Disengagement.
Disengagement, that's right. And that was Arik Sharon, who was well, I won't go into details because I hated the guy. But anyway,
Not all the time.
most of the time. He actually was the one who instigated that whole thing 15 years ago. Have we come anywhere since then? These people went through hell. They went through tragedy.
Still.
Not only were the people who were thrown out of there crying when it happened, the soldiers who forcibly had to move them out were crying themselves. It was a terrible, terrible situation. Go on, yeah, say something. Go
No,
on.
well, that just
Don't be
tells
shy.
you how we as a nation, how we behave, and how we feel each other's pain, and how we understand the suffering from uprooting people from their homes.
Very true. Yeah.
Now, for the world, the EU, Mr. Obama, who cares, Mr. Joe Biden, any of these clowns, none of them realize and none of them give a damn. Sure, Israel should uproot all the settlements in Judea and Samaria. Yeah, let's take all the million people that are living there and throw them out. Let's take all the people living in Geula and throw them out. Let's take all the Jews living in Ramot and throw them out. Why? Because it's okay, because we're going to give these nice people terrorists, which is the next lead-in to our enemies. The terrorists, they deserve a home.
You can't call them all terrorists. I mean, okay, I
I'm
understand
going to
what you're
give you
saying.
the famous line, not all Muslims are terrorists.
Exactly. All right. Okay.
But most terrorists are Muslim, okay? And we're not talking about your
That's very
day-to-day
good.
Muslim, and we're not even getting into the Israeli Arabs. We're talking about people who wanted to destroy us and kill us.
What I can't understand is right at this moment with Corona going on around the whole world, how the Hezbollah have nothing to worry about apart from trying to infiltrate into our country. And they did the other day, or yesterday terrorists tried to get through. They got through. In fact, they did get through the fence in the north of Israel. And what did we do? What was our reaction to that? The army's reaction was to fire around them, not to shoot at them, because God forbid something might happen. They shot around them and they
blew
fled.
up a smoke screen to interfere with what they could see.
Exactly. They ran away, harmed. They weren't harmed at all. And what does that mean in the future? Will they be scared of us? No. Have we created a deterrent? No. What is the policy?
I'm going to tell you what the policy is. It's the policy that we don't hear, especially in the media. But the policy is between the U.S. government and the Israeli government is let them bug you. Let them do this. As long as nothing crazy is happening, try to keep it low key. Don't kill too many people. Don't make too much noise. Okay, let's do those things. Okay, but once, God forbid, as the way Israel always does, a rocket hits somebody, a bomb goes off somewhere, a soldier's blown up, then it's
what?
all out. Then the fireworks start.
Then we're going to do something?
No, yeah, absolutely.
I hope so. I hope
but
so.
But the question to me is, the Israeli population, they don't even know what's going on. And around the world, they don't even know what's going on in the north, where Hezbollah has a very strong, firm control over the state of Lebanon, and they're moving people in and out of Syria. That's a threat to Israel as well.
But Lebanon,
people just talk about Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
If we were go vacationing in Metula right now, we would have been shot at.
They closed the roads there.
Even though Metula is a beautiful place.
They closed all the Yeshuvim around there. Bet Hillel, Kfei Krashmon. We went there for vacations, and they've closed all those places around there. It's disgusting.
See, the problem is it's not a problem. Thank God. The Israeli population, they are hardened people, okay? They can go up north on vacation like they're doing now. And obviously, everywhere they go, they are in firing range of Hezbollah, and they're going. And if the Israeli government says, okay, it's time to leave where you are, they'll pack up their cars and they'll drive home.
But the people
they don't stop living.
Do people who live in New Jersey, do they have to do that? People who live in London, do they have to do that? No. Why do we have to do things like that? Why can't the world?
Because we are occupiers.
Oh, is that what it is? And we're apartheid state as well.
I didn't say that we are occupying our land.
We're very apartheid. Have you seen the way we treat Arabs in the street here? People are walking around with hijabs. How we treat them terribly.
Beautifully.
It's disgusting the way we behave. I'm being facetious.
Hi to Jessica. She's watching you.
Hi, Jessica.
Anyway, so we got that over with now, and now I want to talk a little bit about our friend, Mr. Netanyahu. And Mr. Netanyahu is going through a bit of a hard time at the moment. He's being castigated. He's being demolished by this left-wing onslaught against him every night, every day, outside his home, outside his official residence, everywhere. And it's ugly. And it's not political, and it's not to do with the economy, and it's not to do with the country. It's only simply get rid of Bibi. No more Bibi. Now, what kind of a thing is that?
By the way, sorry, if you had to speak to many of the attending people at the demonstrations, you wouldn't know which group they came from. There were Black Flag people, there were Palestinian occupying supporters, there were other supporters, there were Peace Now supporters. It was like, let's get it together. It's like we're learning from the United States. We don't have one cause, and if we send out one cause, we may not have an impact. Let's put all the hatred in the street.
Okay.
Let's curse everybody. And by the way, I got to tell you something. You're welcome to protest all you want. But if these were right-wing in favor of the government and in favor of Netanyahu, the press would be ripping them apart. No social distancing, no masks, people on top of each other. But because their cause is an anti-Bibi, anti-right cause, it's not even a topic. I just don't understand how that's possible.
The other thing that was very noticeable is that I don't think, I may be wrong here, you may correct me, but I don't think that the police used water cannons against them, as they did against the Hasidim, the Haredim.
No, they did.
Did they?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll take it back.
There was some water.
And I must say that the police have behaved reasonably well. What I'm really upset about is the way the police have been treated by some of the public with this mask wearing business. I don't know what's going on in England or America, but here, when people are walking along the street without a mask and they're approached by a policeman asking them to wear the mask properly, and they fight with them and they threaten them and they swear at them and they abuse them, what's going on? What are these people? What's the matter with them? Have you heard of these things going on?
You've been in Israel, what, 40 years now? Listen.
100 years.
There's a situation in Israel where there is a lack of respect between authority and the local guy. You know, whether it's because everyone's a soldier or everyone's been through rough times or the lack of enforcement of local laws within communities. They feel they can talk. I watched someone get a ticket for parking illegally. The way this man was cursing out this poor girl giving out the ticket.
Yeah.
And your children should die, and your mother should die, and your grandchildren. I don't understand how that is allowed. So really that terrible. Is part of the basic problem of law enforcement within Israeli society. That's why we're having a hard time today keeping people to follow restrictions. And it should be a lesson. And the fines, the only way you stopped people from talking on their phones in their cars was to give them 1,000 shekel fine. And when you were reaping in the money on the 1,000 shekel fine, you said, let's go to 2,000. But what does that do? You rarely see people talking on their phone in their car. There are people, of course, there'll always be, but not a rampant situation.
I think there's a lot less dogs poo around as well. I really think that's
was that
really
one for Aaron. You passed that along,
and I want to thank Aidan for looking in here and mentioning about John's hair. John,
I didn't
is
realize.
John is a pig. I've asked him so many times to give me some of his hair, which he spends a fortune with that hair blackening stuff to get good, and he won't give me any. Aidan, thank you.
You
For
better use a
reminding me.
disclaimer. You know, I was just at the mall the other day driving through security, and the poor guard said, "Hey, I want some of your hair." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Give me some of your hair." I said, "I can't. If I pull out your hair, my hair will fall out." Pulls off his cap. He's a shinier head than my buddy here, Steve.
I want to talk about.
Let's keep on subject.
Okay, I want to talk about another travesty, which has been going on in this country, and that is they're not allowing Bibi to get funding for his court case, which is coming up. At the moment, he is without a lawyer. He has no lawyers.
Why? Because he hasn't paid.
All right, he hasn't paid, and he only has a net worth of $14 million, which is most of us have that, but he has only that. And just to put it in perspective, Aric Sharon, the big Aric Sharon, when he was in power, he had double that as in his net worth. Now, how that came about, God only knows, because he didn't do anything to earn any money. He wasn't in business. He was in nothing. So where did that money suddenly come from, and from what source? Now, Bibi, he owns 3 properties, fair enough. One he half owns with his brothers, is his parents' home, but he has 2 homes, one in Caesarea and one in Jerusalem. Good luck to him. Why not? But that doesn't mean that he can't. He cannot raise money for his court case. It's not political. He's not raising it for his political party. He's raising it for himself, for his own reasons. Don't you agree with that? I mean, am I saying something stupid?
I agree with them. I guess the major problem they're having is a conflict of interest. So you make sure that you keep an eye on that situation. I mean, if any if any one individual in the citizens, any citizen has a problem and they need to borrow money to defend themselves paying for a lawyer, they go to their relatives and friends and say, hey, I cannot afford it. Whether he can afford or not is none of our business.
Exactly.
The question is, what's the problem? So you eliminate the conflict of interest. It just seems to me also, the problem is every day in the newspapers, I have to see this Mandelblit, a picture of him. He's in the news every day. I mean, I never heard of all this stuff. Look, when I was growing up in America and the political system there, I never heard all this stuff. Not at least till after they left, or campaign issues. But like every day, including, I'm going to tell you, the Jerusalem Post. That's the paper most of you read, which has nothing to read anymore. But every day the editorial, it's knocking Netanyahu, it's knocking the Likud. Every day, it's an amazing thing that's not, you would think. In the last 11 years, nothing good happened under Netanyahu. Of course, it's easy to go after and punch the guy in charge, because who else are you going to scream at? Okay? But look at both sides of the coin.
I want to actually say that since the election, and since the Israeli election, since the installation of Benny Gantz as the caretaker prime minister,
still in the government?
Since that time, the shit's hit the fan as far as Corona is concerned. Before that, when Bibi was solely in charge of Corona, and a lot of people might not agree with me, but I really think he had it under control. He had his finger on the pulse. Now, everything's going crazy.
Naftali Bennett had a big part in that when he had things under control. It's very unfortunate that Naftali Bennett was left out of Netanyahu's government.
That's very true.
That's also something to look at and blame. But Blue and White still to this day is not interested in governing. Their interest is still to get rid of Bibi. Go ahead.
The amazing thing is that Gideon Levy, who we all know and love, you know Gideon Levy?
Oh, he writes for that communist
He writes
newspaper.
for the communist Haaretz newspaper. He's a complete and total left-wing. I won't use any bad profanities here.
Sonei Yisrael.
Anyway, he
Israel
actually came out and he said the reason there's no opposition in this country is that Lapid, Yair Lapid, that idiot, that child, he he has how does he call it? Infanticized the whole of the opposition in this country. There is no opposition anymore. It's like it's completely collapsed. There's nothing. And the only opposition there is in this country is a good one. It's the right wing. It's Bennett and Shaked. They're the only ones, I think, who are really representing the opposition to the government.
Yeah, because Netanyahu brought him into his government, the opposition.
Yeah.
Two members of the Labor Party, some other clowns. I mean,
it's very sad. It's very sad that that's what's going on, and we can only hope that things are going to get better.
Okay, I think, let's just, not to get too religiously, we're not proselytizing, whatever that word is.
Proselytizing.
Yeah. Anyway, these days are called the 9 days, which started from last Thursday.
You mustn't eat meat. No meat.
No meat.
No steaks.
You can't have any pudding.
Don't even think about steaks.
Meat. Okay.
If it's Friday, though, you could have eaten them till this week.
Let's go beyond the menus for the days. And in another couple of days, on Thursday, we will be observing the holiday of Tisha B'Av, which is a very, very strong day of mourning. It represents the destruction of the two temples of the Jewish people previously, as we await the building of the third temple. Now, we must understand, because Tisha B'Av also represents all the troubles, tribulations, persecutions, massacres, mass deportations. A lot of things happened as well on Tisha B'Av. And we say a lot of different piyutim, a lot of different words and different paragraphs about all the different things that happened. That's on Thursday. But we should understand that we survived the Shoah.
The Holocaust.
We made it through that. We built a beautiful country of our own here. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The tide is changing. In Israel, it has to get stronger and stronger, because in the not so distant future, they will stand on their own against the rest of the world, as they have done for the most part. But a lot of their friends and allies in Europe and other places, and God forbid, if a guy like Cuckoo Biden gets in, Israel will be facing some other issues with their number one ally. We must be ready, and we must be aware. That's all I have.
Thank you, John, for that monologue. That was great, as usual. And God bless to you all. Have a good fast, those of you who are fasting. Those of you who aren't.
Fast.
Those of you who aren't fasting and eating meat, tell me what it's like, afterwards. And God bless you all, and take care, and like us. We should say that
from Israel.
Bye. God bless. Bye.
All right, tell me what we got there.